This is a map of London. This is a map of Lisbon, and this is of Guinea-Bissau. What does one have to do with the other? Historically, very little, until this summer that is, when a story about a leap of faith, a brutal betrayal, and a man who bet his own reputation on an 8-year-old ended up with a £44 million Premier League move for one of football's brightest prospects. This is the bizarre story of Chelsea's new Wonderkid.
I'm not going to comment. Oops. See you. This kid is special.
Quenda now joins the party off.
The year was 2016, and Geovany Quenda, then just a boy, arrived in Lisbon from Guinea-Bissau. It's a small nation, not really known for its footballing prowess, although notably is the birthplace of another footballing prodigy in former Barcelona and now Monaco star Ansu Fati. It's a place where football is everything, but organised tactical training is quite rare. The focus is on having the ball at your feet and using pure skill. This cultural style will define Quenda's initial talent, and having moved to Portugal would lead him to catching one person's eye in particular, that of former professional footballer 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏, who was the youth coordinator for 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏, a local club in the Lisbon area. It's fair to say, as someone who used to play in the Portuguese Premier League and coached thousands of kids every year, he'd know a special talent when he saw one, and Quenda was exactly that. In fact, 𝗏𝗏 was so impressed with this kid who played so effortlessly, used both feet and demonstrated levels of skill well beyond his years, that he immediately spoke to the president about signing him up, afraid of losing him to a bigger club's youth academy, which is fair enough given the size, reputation and resources of local giants Sporting and Benfica. But here is where it gets interesting, like beyond the realms of normal football interesting. 𝗏𝗏 went to Geovany Quenda's house, spoke to his father about signing him up, and then found out that his father was about to move to France. So what did they do? They agreed that the best thing for his footballing development was for his dad to grant a power of attorney and make 𝗏𝗏 Quenda's legal guardian in Portugal. This wasn't just a scout signing a player. This was a guy taking responsibility for a boy's entire life. He was practically his new dad in the country. He took responsibility to control his school situation, ensured his transfers were close to home, and handled every adjustment that was fundamental to Quenda's personal process. So it was no surprise to 𝗏𝗏, now representing Quenda, when Benfica and Sporting both came calling, although it was Benfica who pushed hardest and secured a deal for Quenda to join their prestigious academy at the end of the season. And once he arrived, he thrived under the pressure of this new reality, and Benfica's academy immediately standing out. In his debut season, he led his age group to victory in the district championship, all whilst remaining incredibly humble, going as far as praising the opposition's Sporting players when later on picking up the Best Player award at an international tournament. But at just 13 years old, a disagreement, a demand from the one person who knew his personal needs best, changed everything. 𝗏𝗏 was convinced that the best solution for Quenda's social and personal development was for him to live at Benfica's academy residence. The club agreed, but as soon as the season ended, they reneged on their word, claiming they simply didn't have enough room for him. In 𝗏𝗏's eyes, this was the ultimate betrayal of trust and a complete lack of care towards the boy's welfare. He and Quenda's father, visiting from France, then confronted Benfica's coordinators, but they wouldn't budge. And so it was in the car park after that meeting that 𝗏𝗏 received a phone call from a director at Sporting. The information about the rift had already leaked, Sporting had a proposal ready and crucially promised everything that 𝗏𝗏 wanted for his child. The decision to move Quenda from Benfica to Sporting wasn't easy. Quenda's father was a massive Benfica fan and he had close friends at the club. However, 𝗏𝗏 was unwavering in his belief that Sporting offered the better pathway and better environment, eventually convincing them to embrace the new project. But not before Benfica made a desperate last-minute lunge to rectify the whole situation. They offered the lot: residency at the academy, a monthly salary, a place at a good college, but it was too late. 𝗏𝗏 had already given his word to Sporting and wasn't going back on it. Now, it's at this point, it's really where you see and understand the amount of belief that young players need behind them in order to succeed, and the belief that parents or guardians in this case need to have, because, well, the situation turned, let's call it, unsavoury. 𝗏𝗏 was subjected to serious abuse. People even called Quenda's father, telling him that 𝗏𝗏 was going to ruin his son's career. The weight of that decision was immense. If it didn't work out, there'd be no coming back for 𝗘𝗫𝗧 in a professional sense. He was sat at 17 on the blackjack table and said, "Hit me." Thankfully, every party in this three-way committee concerning Quenda's career blocked out the noise and stayed on the same page, trusting the judgment of the man who had put Quenda's well-being at the top of his priority list ever since he first saw him. The switch, as I'm sure you're aware of now, was an eventual success. In fact, it was right from the off, as Quenda excelled at sporting. The critical goals in the under-15s national championship victory, the remarkable 20-goal season in the under-17s, and the promotion to the under-23s at just 16. He was the academy's worst-kept secret, putting in dazzling displays that put him in the firm sights of first-team manager 𝗷𝗊𝗍𝗓𝗓. Just like his style of play on the pitch, Quenda's rise was now accelerating at an unbelievable pace. At just 16 years old, he became the youngest ever player to appear for Sporting B in the 3rd division, the clearest indicator thus far that the youth setup could barely contain his talent. But the true breakthrough came during pre-season leading into the 24-25 campaign, where Quenda's impressive showings convinced 𝗷𝗊𝗍𝗓𝗓 to fast-track him into the first-team picture. The result? A dream professional debut in the Portuguese Super Cup against bitter rivals Porto, where despite the team's loss, Quenda rewrote club history, becoming his side's youngest ever senior goal scorer. But he wasn't done there. Later that year, in his first league goal, and also his appearance in the heated Lisbon derby, against his former club of course, saw him become the youngest ever to do so in both categories, beating records previously held by Cristiano Ronaldo. The fans were astounded at their new young star. The club gave him a new deal with a €100 million buyout clause. Funnily enough, doing so just before his Champions League debut, because they knew what the rest of Europe was about to witness as soon as he featured in the competition. He earned a call-up to the Portuguese national team, with coach Roberto Martinez praising the teenager for having quality that is not normal for a 17-year-old. Check out the goal he scored to the under-17 national team against Morocco. It's ridiculous. He's a pure creative wide player who exploits one-on-one situations, maintains his top speed whilst dribbling, and utilises a low centre of gravity that makes him incredibly difficult to dispossess. The biggest solution in Quenda's game, however, was born out of necessity, adapting his often individual-focused style of play to add a more team-centric edge to it, basically defending. And he did it. This versatility is what earned him the trust of 𝗷𝗊𝗍𝗓𝗓𝗓, who was unafraid to play him as a wing-back, despite his natural position being as a right winger. I sort of see it now with Amad Diallo at Manchester United, whose immense work rate sees him trusted in a wing-back role, even when he's a more natural attacking player. But even as Quenda established himself in the first team and continued on to greater and greater heights, his guardian maintained the cautious, tough-love approach, believing the ultimate success lay not just in talent, but in focus. Speaking in an interview in 2023, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 said, "The only thing I want for him is to not get distracted. He has to focus 100% on football, because often kids, when they reach higher levels, start to get carried away." But as the young star picked up his award for the league's Young Player of the Year in the summer, he was getting carried away. Although this time, it was on a plane, with fellow teammate and fellow academy graduate 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 to London, where they both put pen to paper on long-term deals with Chelsea.
Nani, he's joining Chelsea in 2026. Have Man United missed out on getting a top player there?
Yes, I think so. He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. He has energy and he's very intelligent player.
For the young winger, this is not just a transfer. It's an entrance into the most ambitious youth project in world football. Chelsea's strategy under new ownership has been clear: sign the best young talent globally on long-term deals and develop them. It's this sort of project and plan which, although it doesn't work out for everyone at Chelsea, has plenty of precedent when it comes to the opportunities given to young players. These players, both foreign imports and academy graduates, intend to form the spine of Chelsea's team for the next decade. The competition will be immense, but the opportunity to learn and develop in a system that explicitly values youth is unparalleled. It's just now up to Quenda to prove he's got what it takes when he joins the club officially in summer 26. The story of Geovany Quenda may have only just begun on a professional level, but when you look at all it has taken to get here, moving continent at a young age, growing up in a household that wasn't even his own, dealing with big decisions that directly impacted his dream career, he's more than well equipped to deal with the fame, pressure and scrutiny that will come with playing for the biggest clubs in the biggest competitions. The gamble taken by his father has paid off. The belief shown by Basuala Lemba has paid off. Quenda's commitment has paid off. Sometimes a plan is so crazy that it just might work.